In 1812, the United States tried to invade Canada and failed completely. It was one of the boldest moves in early American history and one of the most embarrassing. Let's rewind. By the early 1800s, tensions between the US and Britain were boiling. The British Navy was seizing American sailors at sea, and Native American tribes in the West, many backed by the British, were pushing back against US expansion. To make things worse, Britain was already deep in war with Napoleon in Europe. American leaders saw an opportunity. They believed that Canada, still a British colony, was poorly defended. Many thought Canadians would actually welcome American troops as liberators. One congressman even bragged, "The acquisition of Canada will be a mere matter of marching." So the US declared war in June 1812. The goal: hit Britain where it hurt by taking Canada. The first invasion came just a month later. General William Hull marched his army from Ohio into Upper Canada, what's now southern Ontario. But he hesitated, delayed, and then panicked when British forces and their native allies approached. Hull became convinced he was surrounded by a massive army. In reality, it was a clever bluff. Still, Hull surrendered Detroit without firing a shot. He handed over his entire army, 2,500 soldiers, to a much smaller British-Canadian force. It was one of the most humiliating surrenders in US history. But America didn't give up. Later that year, US troops attempted to cross the Niagara River at Queenston Heights. They made it across, but their reinforcements on the American side refused to follow. The result? The US troops already across were left stranded, outnumbered, and quickly defeated. Their commander, General Stephen Van Rensselaer, resigned in disgrace. Meanwhile, British General Isaac Brock became a national hero, even though he was killed in the battle. A third invasion effort came from New York. General Henry Dearborn led thousands of troops, but many of them simply refused to fight. They said they hadn't signed up to invade another country, so they sat down and refused to march. The invasions were failing one after another. Why? The US military was unprepared, poorly trained, and deeply divided. Many American soldiers were state militia who didn't want to leave home. Commanders lacked experience, and coordination between units was chaotic. And Canada wasn't just sitting back. British troops, Canadian militias, and Native American warriors, especially those led by Shawnee leader Tecumseh, fought fiercely to defend the land. Tecumseh, in particular, became a key figure in resisting the invasion. He unified tribes and formed alliances that helped repel the Americans on multiple fronts. In fact, Native forces were often more effective in battle than either army expected. Meanwhile, things weren't going much better elsewhere. In 1814, British forces struck back. They marched into Washington, D.C., and burned the White House to the ground. It was a shocking moment, a reminder that the US wasn't invincible. Finally, in 1815, the war ended with the Treaty of Ghent. The treaty basically restored everything to the way it was before the war. No land changed hands, no borders moved, and no side could really claim total victory. But one thing was clear: the US had failed to conquer Canada. The easy victory had turned into a costly disaster. Thousands had died, cities had been burned, and the borders stayed exactly the same for Canada. The war became a foundational story proof that it could defend itself from a much larger neighbor. For the United States, it was a lesson in overconfidence and underestimating your opponent. It's a part of history many Americans forget, but one Canadians remember well. Because yes, once upon a time, the United States tried to invade Canada. And Canada won.